I thought we'd do a series on specifically aimed at spotting mistakes. Okay, so what I'm going to do like a speed run through the beginner level bots, and we're going to practice highlighting when your opponent screws up. Okay, simple as that. It's something that we very often miss. I mean, yesterday I played a game, I even posted it, where my opponent hung his queen, and I could have actually captured the queen, and I missed it. So not missing your opponent's mistakes, or not seeing what is a mistake, is extremely important. So we're starting off with the Martin bot. Okay, and we have King's Pawn out, so I'm just going to go ahead and grab the centre, like normal. Okay, so he's playing very kind of quietly. So what he's doing is he's now covering these squares here, which are the same ones that I'm covering. No mistakes so far. All right, so let's develop a knight. Develop the minor piece on the king side. Okay, so now he's brought a knight out. He's looking at this pawn. Is the pawn defended? Yes, once and twice. So I can carry on with my development. Let's bring out another knight. Why not? And now this knight is attacking this pawn. Is this defended? Yes, it's defended by this knight here. So that's all fine. So let's now bring out the bishop. Let's come all the way out to here. Okay, so that was pinning the knight on the king, and with this bishop move he's broken the pin. No mistake so far as I can see. So I'm just going to carry on with development. I'm going to bring out my other bishop and pin this knight against the queen. Okay, now he's done a different move here. He's pushed his g-pawn. Right, so I don't see a mistake there. I could push either of these pawns and attack a knight, you see, but then his pawns can capture as well. So, in the absence of anything else, I'm going to push my queen up. Now, I'm putting my queen here because it's on the same diagonal as this bishop. Right, now he's moved his queen out. What does that change? Okay, this knight is still pinned. Now, if I was to push there, he could take and I recapture, and I'm attacking this knight, which is pinned. So that's attacking the pinned piece. However, he has a second defender on this square. So first the pawn, then he has this knight. So in a game, if I was playing somebody at my level, I'd think about the sequence taking the knight first, then probably bishop takes, then I can attack the pinned piece, pawn takes, I'm still attacking the pinned piece, right? I'm not going to do that now, because the point is not to punish my opponent. The point is to spot mistakes. So, okay, so it's pushed h6, and that's attacking my bishop, so I'm going to, I think, retreat my bishop. There's no point doing that move now. Let's retreat to safety. Okay, now he's moved his king. Now that is probably a mistake. The reason is now he's lost castling rights. Okay, so now he can't castle this way, and he can't castle this way either. And the good thing about castling is that you can, it not only gets your king towards the corner, right, where it's slightly safer because there are fewer angles of attack, right? Because here the king can be attacked from this side, can be attacked from this side, can be attacked from the front. Okay, in the corner he can only be attacked from like there and there. So it gives your opponent fewer options to come at your king. But the other thing is that it gets a rook towards the centre of the board, and now he can't do that. So I'm castled, he's not. Therefore, what I'm going to do is I'm going to push pawns in the middle of the board, right? And I'm going to attack the middle. Now that is a mistake, because this pawn is attacking his knight, and he didn't spot it. Okay, he's moved his bishop back instead, so I'm going to go ahead and capture the knight. And again, he could have recaptured here with a pawn, but he didn't, so I'm going to capture that as well. And now he takes with the bishop. Okay. Now you notice I've got my queen and my rook lined up with my opponent's king. So next thing, actually, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to centralise my other rook. Okay, now he's moved his king out of the way. And that's not a bad idea, because he's looking at two major pieces, queen and a rook. All right, now, all I want to do now is I want to come after this king. This pawn's defended by that. So what I'm thinking of doing is maybe using my queen and my bishop together. I'd like to put my bishop there, which would force him to take, because I'm attacking the bishop behind it. I'm also attacking the rook. But how can I defend that square? Well, I can put a knight here. Okay, so I've got a plan to simplify. Ooh. Oh. Interesting. So now he's attacking my knight with his pawn. Okay. So let's move the knight out of the way. If he pushes the pawn again, I can always come back to here. All right, this is okay. So now what I'm just going to put my queen here now. I'm going to come from a different angle. Oh, that was actually quite a decent move. So what I wanted to do is put my bishop here and attack the bishop and the king at once, right? But with pushing his pawn forward here, now he has two pieces defending this square, right? So now that move is out. Okay, so what I'm just going to do is I'm going to drop my bishop back to prevent him from advancing that pawn anymore. And still, you can see now this king is starting to look very exposed. This pawn here is defended only by the queen. So I'm thinking I might attack that pawn again. So let's push this knight forward. I've now got knight and rook attacking there. Okay. Right, let's attack it one more time with this move. So I have bishop. Okay, now I have 1, 2, 3 attackers on this pawn. How many defenders does he have? Let's do it in orange. 1, 2. And that means when you've got more attackers than defenders, depends on the value of the pieces, but I can go ahead and just start capturing now. Okay, he's moved his king. I just want to eliminate pieces. And that was just terrible. You know, I mean, that's, if it was a human, I'd think mouse it. Okay, he should have just recaptured the knight, but what he's done is he's put the queen in harm's way, right in line with my bishop. Okay, so he's like blocked. Hang on. Oh yeah, because this came with check, right? Because he was in check from there. But so what he should have done is captured the knight with the king. Okay, so he's lost his queen now. I can now come back. In fact, I think my best move is just to capture there. And now his position's just going to fall apart. Completely fall apart. And it's just going to be a simple matter to finish the game. Now rook's defended, but... oh, curses. Right, let's just capture some stuff. And there we go. That's the end of the game. Okay, so that's what we're doing. We are highlighting mistakes as we go. Now we've got Wayne also at 250. And we'll do the same with Wayne. It's a little bit, there's a bit of lag. Okay, so I'm just going to meet that move in the centre. I'm going to play normal. Oh, this is called the Wayward Queen attack. So the queen here is actually attacking my pawn. So I'm going to defend the pawn and develop a minor piece at the same time, this knight. Now we have queen and bishop threatening checkmate. Aha. Okay, now I can't prevent that and develop a minor piece. Well, I can actually. I can play knight to h6, which defends this pawn. So that's an idea, but I'm putting my knight on the edge of the board, which isn't ideal. Another thing I can do is push g6 to hit the queen. Attacks the queen, queen has to retreat. Now she comes back to this square, and now look, she's coming through again to look at my stuff. So now I can block with my knight. It's defended by my queen. And now what I can do is actually attack the queen and also this square here. But I'm not going to do that right now. I'm going to develop. So because my g-pawn has moved forward, I'm going to stick my bishop in this triangle here, which is called the fianchetto. Okay, he's brought out his bishop. So he's not playing badly at all here. Okay, attacking my knight twice. My knight is defended twice, so we're okay. So now I can go ahead and castle my king. Right, is that a mistake? Not that I can see. It's attacked twice, defended twice. I think I want to attack the queen now. I want to get this queen out of there. I don't like it. And there you go. So he's failed to spot an attack on an important piece. And he says, no, I can't live without my queen. And here, he could have recaptured with a knight. He didn't, so I'm going to have his bishop as well. Okay. You can see the value of calmness in the game. Yeah, I blundered a piece in the last game. So here I can attack the bishop because it's defended. My pawn is attacked once, twice, but defended as well. And again, he's missed it. So, good to attack, because sometimes your opponent just misses it. Now, you see, he's got all these pawns. 7 of his 8 pawns are on light squares, which makes life a bit tougher for my bishop. So I'm not going to use this bishop right now. I'm going to go forward with my queen, attack his king, and also attack his rook. So let's have a rook. Why not? Okay, he attacks my knight. Let's just re-maneuver my knight. My knight wants to come back into the middle of the board. And now I've got another hanging piece. So a really good practice in any game is to do what I call the Goldfish Method. So the idea is that you need to pretend that you're like a goldfish, that you have incredibly short memory. He's attacking my knight, so I'm going to move it. And let's go in, attack the king, defended by the knight. All right, so yeah, pretend you're a goldfish, and that your memory is just a few seconds long, right? So every time that a move is played, you've forgotten what your ideas were, you've forgotten any assumptions about the game, and you have to read the board as though it's the first time you've seen it. It's like, oh, okay, chess game, puzzle, where are we? You know? So, I mean, the material difference here is just astronomical. Okay, so now this bishop can come into play because stuff has come off the board. And he attacks my knight. Let's give check here. Let's save the knight. I want to play really solidly now. Let's bring a rook into play. This pawn is... In fact, I could have just captured that pawn. Yep, so I'll show you the Goldfish Method in the next game, because I think that'll be useful for you guys. Okay, now what we have is the king has now lined itself up with my queen. So I now have the option of a discovered attack by moving the bishop, and now he's in check, which is not great. Now check here. He can't go there, he can't go there. He has to go there or there. So if I give check here, he's going to come here. I can push my queen forward. Nope. Nope. I can just take this pawn. And we'll take the knight with check. And it's going to be checkmate now. Okay, defended by the knight, and his king can't move. Okay, so we'll look at the Goldfish Method on this game. So there's a couple of things that you need to do. So now we're Fabian, we're also 250. Okay, this isn't a strong move, because generally, if you think the most important squares on the board are the central ones, right? These 4 right in the middle that I've highlighted in red. If you imagine that you're fighting on a hill, right, and the middle of the hill is the middle of the board, okay? And so the highest point, so it's easier to defend from there. You get more visibility of the board, you get more control when you are on the top of the hill. And then from around there, you've got the orange squares, which are the next most valuable, right? So what I did with my first move is I'm controlling these 2 squares. Yeah, my opponent here has moved his pawn there, and he's only controlling this square, which is a less valuable square. It's not in even that 4x4, right? It's not important really at all. The other thing is that with me moving my central pawn, I've now released one of my bishops to come out into the board, right? Whereas black has not. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to move my queen's pawn, which then allows this bishop to come out. Okay, he's attacking this. Now it's time for knights, as we saw before. Okay, now he's the other knight. This attacks the king's pawn, which immediately is not defended. So let's bring out another knight and defend that pawn. Now bishops. Now we'll play our bishops in a more quiet and... Okay, he's moved his rook. That means that he's lost the right to castle queenside, because he's moved his queen's rook. If he's going to castle, he's only going to castle in that direction. So the first thing I do is I look at this now. Is the rook defended? Yes, it's defended by the knight. Okay, is this pawn defended? Yes, it's defended by the knight and the rook, right? This is defended, that's defended, 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 defended. And this is an interesting one. The f-pawn is defended only by the king, right? So right now, actually, everything on my opponent's side of the board is actually defended. So he's doing a decent job. I'm going to develop my final bishop now. It's my final minor piece. And you see I lined it up with his rook. And now he's moved his rook back. So on the last couple of moves, he moves his rook forward, I develop, then he moves his rook back. So what he's done now is he's wasted 2 turns. In chess terminology, it's called tempi. Right? One tempo. Tempo is the Italian word for time. So time is important, right? You need to make the best use of your turns to progress your army up the board, to control the board, right? Now what black has done here, after only 6 moves, he's used one of those 6 moves to move his rook there and then another one to move it back. So he's wasted 2 out of his 6 moves and he's got nothing to show for it. Plus this pawn move was very poor as well. So now, final couple of steps, I want to get my queen off the back rank and then I want to castle my king to connect my rooks. I'm going to castle kingside, and the reason is because he's already started to make progress up here. Right, in comes this knight. He's having a sniff around this bishop. That's okay. I'm going to push my pawn. The knight is defended, but a pawn can still attack. Okay, and he's missed the threat. Okay, so I'm attacking his knight. It is defended by a pawn. Oops. But the pawn is lower value. So he takes, if pawn takes back. No, he hasn't even taken back. So now I can capture this. I'll capture it with the pawn again. There we go. So I've just won myself a knight and a pawn. And now he's moved his rook forward again in line with my bishop. So I could push up. But again, you see the situation. I've castled. Black hasn't. And the reason black hasn't castled is because he didn't follow the principles. He didn't develop all his minor pieces like I did. Okay? And that's because he played the wrong pawn move that didn't allow a bishop out into the board, and he's been messing about with his rook, using moves that could better have been used to develop his bishop and get his king castled. So without delay, we're going to attack in the centre. Of course we are. And now we're going to capture this pawn, because I want to peel open this king. Now I'm going to take this pawn to peel open this king. Oh! And now I'm going to capture this bishop and make myself a queen. Why not? Okay? Now look, king's open in the middle of the board. Now, goldfish time. Is this pawn defended? No. And it's attacked. Okay, is this pawn defended? No. The knight is defended by the pawn, that's defended. So just get into the habit of doing this on every turn. That's not defended. The queen defends everything else, okay? So we've got 3 undefended pieces on black side of the board, one of which is under attack. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to capture that piece. I'm also then opening up a line towards the king. And now I'm attacking his rook and he missed it. Okay, same kind of deal. Now queen here with check. All right, and I think that's probably checkmate, is it not? Okay, there we go. See how simple it can be. But the really, really important thing is just to calm down, slow down, look at the board as it is. Not the way you wish it to be, as it is. Okay, we've now moved up to 400 with Juan. Okay, again, central pawns. Basic stuff. Alright, now he's come out with a knight. Now, can I do this move? Right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to visualize that. If I put my pawn there, it's going to be under attack by his knight. Is it defended? Yes, my queen's behind it. So I'm going to go ahead with d4. Now he's countered in the center. Now his pawn is attacking my pawn and my pawn is attacking his pawn. Something we call tension. So what can I do about that? Now, a lot of beginners have an issue with tension where they go, oh, I have to get rid of this. I have to take the pawn. Otherwise it's going to take me. You know, oh my goodness. Right, well, pause for a minute. Okay, let's say it takes you. Is the pawn defended? Actually, no, it's not defended. Right, the king's pawn at the start of the game, if you push it straight forward, there's nothing defending it. But if I put my knight here, and then the pawn takes, and I take back with my knight, look, I've just got my knight into the centre of the board. Right, now he's pushed his king's pawn. And now I have options. I could push my pawn forward, right? But I'm not going to do that because we're following principle. So let's put the bishop, put the bishop here. That's another defender on this pawn. Now he's moved his queen. Generally not a good idea. Right, we've already seen the wayward queen attack. The general principle is you want to develop your minor pieces before your major pieces. Your major pieces are your rooks and Her Majesty. So I'm going to be principled and I'm going to develop my knight. Again, move this king. What does that mean? It means he loses castling rights. Now I could move my bishop out here and attack queen and king. This is something we call a pin. It would be defended by my knight on that square. But if I do that, he can just push this pawn forward, can't he? And block. And then the pawn's attacking my bishop, and then I have to move my bishop a second time. And then I lose a turn. I lose a tempo. Right, so I will move my bishop, and I'm just going to put it here. Okay. Oh, he's moved his rook. All right. Generally, you don't want to play rook moves until you've got all your minor stuff out on the board. So, and of course, one of your best rook moves is actually to castle, because you get your king safe and you develop a rook towards the middle of the board in one turn, which is good. Alrighty, so what's defended? Knight defends that, yeah, rook defends that, everything, queen defends that, defends that, defends that. Everything is actually pretty much defended on this side of the board, so this is not bad. Okay, now, what do we need to do? I want to castle my king, because he hasn't castled and he can't. And again, same thing. We're going to break open the centre because his king ain't castled. And look, I'm attacking his knight. And he missed it, so let's have a free knight. Why not? Okay. And you can see now things are starting to break down and decay on black side of the board. So next things, what do we do? Let's move the knight into the middle of the board. I want to attack. Notice if I capture that pawn, okay, he attacks my bishop, but he's missed a greater threat, which is this. It's called a family fork, because I'm attacking the king, the queen, and the rook, all with a knight, and his queen will fall. And now I have time to retrieve my bishop, get it to safety, also attacking his rook. This pawn is undefended. This pawn is undefended. This bishop's undefended. Can I resolve all of these issues in one go? Don't think so. Well, this isn't under attack, and neither is this. The only one of those pieces that is under attack is the pawn. So let's just move the rook across and defend the pawn. Okay. Now I'm going to give check with my bishop. Okay, on this square which is protected by my knight. Sure, rook could have taken my bishop, then knight recaptures, so a rook is more valuable than a bishop. Okay, what's next? Let's centralize the rook. This is a semi-open file. What it means is that it only has pawns of one colour on the board, on that file. Right. And now we are going to push forwards. I can't give check there because the knight guards that square. Let's get this bishop onto a better square where it's defended by a pawn. Okay. Now I'm just going to swap it off because again I'm well up in material, and when you're up in material, it simply makes sense to make trades. Okay, king couldn't recapture there because it's defended by the rook. Now I can put my bishop here, threaten his bishop. Okay, let's take it. And let's come in with the queen. He's really, really running out of options now. What's next? What do we do? Bum. Let's push the pawn forward and threaten the rook. Let's eat the rook. Alright, and this is check. Defended by my bishop. Right, now he's on the dark square. This is check, defended by my knight. And this, I think, is nearly it. Now he goes in the corner. Can't take this pawn, it's defended by the bishop. Calmness. Calmness is all we need. And that's it, checkmate. Okay, let's do one more. One more bot. This is now Philip at 400. I do apologise. Right, he's playing a less usual move, the King's Fianchetto opening. Aha! Right, so now he's attacking my central pawn with a wing pawn. Right, these are the wing files. Right, these are the two central files. And this pawn is slightly more valuable than this pawn. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to defend it with my own wing pawn, so that if he wants to take, I take back. Right, he's moved his knight now again to the edge of the board. It's not great on the edge of the board because it's only controlling 4 squares. Okay, if a knight is in the middle of the board, it can control 8 squares. Interesting. Right, let us carry on, control the centre. All right, now what do? We develop our knights. And again, we see an early queen move. So what I want to do now is I want to complete developing my minor pieces, but I notice if I move my knight can't come here because I've pushed this pawn, right? It can only come here. But if it goes there, I'm blocking in this bishop. So what I want to do is I want to move this bishop before I put my knight here. And he's moved this queen again, so in 2 moves, queen there, and why? Yes, he's pinning this knight, right, on my king. So, but this gives me the opportunity to develop another minor piece and break the pin. What is that, Philip? Huh? What is this? Hey, Woody. So now he's moved his king, and again he can't castle. So now I can carry on developing my minor pieces, moving them towards the centre of the board very often. Right, now he's attacking a loose pawn. This is fine. This is not a problem. Alright, I can move my rook across here. I could push the pawn forward. The pawn currently defends this knight, but it's also defended by that. I could move my queen across. Let's do queen across. And the reason is because it also comes with a double attack. Now, this is quite important. So he's attacking this pawn, but it's defended by a knight. Now, however, look, since I put my queen there, the second reason for this was it's attacking this knight behind the bishop. So now I can take that, and if his bishop recaptures, I recapture with my queen, and I've won myself a piece. Right, now we have tension between the bishops. I'm just going to move it back. Why? Because it pins this pawn. Oh no! And he loses his queen. You see? He missed. He didn't look at my last move, right? Putting my bishop there. Okay? And then You know, you have to tell yourself the story. What changed with that move? Well, it means that this pawn here was now pinned, and he moved it, and he's paid the price. He's lost his queen. Okay, and now we go in for the kill, because that's what we do. So queen out now. Okay, his knight has moved to defend this square, which is a good move. So let's get the king castle. Now I'm going to go long. I'm going to castle the queen side. And now, what do? Our king is safe. Opponent's king isn't safe. What do? We open up lines around that old king. Right, now we carry on doing the same thing. We're opening up lines. Now I'm going to line my bishop up with his king. He shouldn't have pushed this pawn. Yeah, well done. Well done. All right, now. I'm going to sacrifice my bishop here. Oh, and he misses it. And he missed that I'm attacking his rook. And this is very often what happens actually when you're playing humans as well. Which is that once they start making mistakes, they make several mistakes at once. Okay, so what's not playing a good part in this attack? My knights. Let's bring my knights in. Grab a free pawn on the way, why not? Let's attack the bishop. It's defended by this bishop. Okay, let's get here. Now, what do we want? Should we have a knight? Because it comes with check. Why not? Let's attack with our bishop. With check, defended by the queen. Let's give check with a knight again. And that's checkmate. There you go. So, brief introduction. We're up to Philip. We will carry on with our beginner bot speed run in the next video. But if you're at the beginner level, you know, if you're below 500, then hopefully this will be useful for you. But the key takeaways are just slowing down. Look at the board. Look at what changed. What's my opponent trying to do? What is my opponent attacking? And very calmly decide what you think the best move is. Double check it. And then if you're happy, play it. And you will shoot up. You will shoot up the rankings, right? If you play that way. All right, everyone. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.